Let's be honest and not honest. There are so many words in English that are so confusing and so annoying. I mean, we write them differently and we pronounce them differently. Well, these words are known as silent letter words. It means that when you pronounce the word, you can't listen to the letter sound because the letter is silent. But when you read it and write it, it's there. Just like the word honest. It is pronounced with the letter sound of O, honest. Although it starts with an H, right? So confusing. You will be surprised to know that there are 60% words in English that have silent letters in them. Hello everyone, I am Vani and I welcome you back to this amazing lesson with Ingvarta in which we will be dealing with these letters. We will be talking about the most common words that have silent letters in them, and because of that, they are usually mispronounced. So, let's divide this video into two parts. In part 1, we shall be going over the top 5 words, and in part 2, we will learn about the rules of the silent letter. These rules will help you to identify when a letter is silent in a word and not to use them in your pronunciation.
Ingvarta, your English practice playground. No judgment, only motivation and constructive feedback.
So, let's start with part 1. Word number 1. D-E-B-T. So, how do you pronounce this word? As debt or debt? Well, the correct pronunciation is debt because the letter B is silent. Debt is a form of loan. Word number 2. F-A-S-T-E-N. So how do you pronounce this one? As fasten or fasten? Well, the correct pronunciation is fasten because the letter T is silent. Fasten means to quickly attach something. Word number 3. S-U-B-T-L-E. So, how do you pronounce this one? Is it subtle or subtle? You got it right. It's subtle. The word B is silent here. The letter B, I'm sorry. Subtle is something very delicate. Word number 4. S-A-N-D-W-I-C-H. I am pretty sure you all know what this means. How do you pronounce it? Is it sandwich or sandwich? You got it right. It's sandwich. The letter D is silent here. Moving on to our word number 5. G-O-V-E-R-N-M-E-N-T. So how do you pronounce this word? Is it government or government? Well, it is pronounced as government. The letter N is silent here. Now there are so many words like these and listing them down all together at once, that is just impossible. Therefore, in part 2, I shall be giving you rules that you can apply to identify which letter is silent in a word. Altogether, there are 16 rules. So, sit tight and let's start. The starting one is silent letter B. It has 2 rules. Rule number 1. Whenever B follows the letter M in a word, then B is silent. For example, comb, bomb, thumb. Rule number 2. Whenever B precedes the letter T in a word, B is not pronounced. For example, subtle or debt. Let's move on to silent letter C. Whenever C and S are in a combination, then C is not pronounced. For example, scissor or fascinating. Rule number 2. Whenever C precedes the letter K and Q in a word, C is not pronounced. For example, lock or acquire. Let's move on to our third letter. silent letter D. It has two rules again. So let's start with rule number 1. Letter D is silent when it comes before N and G in a word. For example, Wednesday or pledge. Rule number 2. There are some common words in which letter D is not pronounced. For example, handsome or sandwich. Sandwich is one example that I have already used in the part 1 of the video. Moving on to silent letter E, our fourth letter. Letter E is not pronounced when it comes towards the end of a word. It is silent then. For example, table or before. Rule number 2. Whenever letter E occurs before D in a word and the word is in the past or past participle form, then letter E is silent. For example, bored or fixed. Our fifth silent letter is letter G. It only has one simple rule. And the rule is that sometimes the letter G is silent when it comes before N. For example, design or sign. But there is always an exception in some cases. For example, signature or magnet. The sixth rule is the combination rule of letter G and H. And the only simple rule is that G and H are not silent when they come in a word after a vowel. Vowels are A, E, I, O, U. So when they come after a vowel, then they are not silent. For example, thought, light, through. Moving on to our seventh silent letter, letter H. The first rule is that letter H is silent in some words when it comes after W. For example, why, what, when. Rule number 2. There are some words which start with letter H, but the letter is silent. Can you think of a word? I just started the video with that word. It is honest and R. Moving on to our next silent letter K. It only has one simple rule. Letter K is silent whenever it precedes letter N in a word. For example, knowledge or night. Our ninth letter, silent letter L. L is usually silent when it comes after the vowel A, O and U in a word. For example, wood or calf. Going ahead to our 10th letter, silent letter N. N is usually not pronounced when it comes at the end of the word and after M. For example, autumn or dam. Kudos you guys, amazing work. 10 done, 6 more to go. Moving on to our 11th silent letter, P. P is sometimes not pronounced when it is in a combination of PS, PT or PN. For example, pneumonia or psalm. Going to our rule number 12, the combination rule of PH. Sometimes the letters P and H are together pronounced as fur sound. For example, paragraph or elephant. Rule number 13. The letter S is silent when it comes before the letter L in a word. For example, island or isle. Rule number 14. It is not exactly a rule, but there are some words in which the letter T is silent. For example, often, fasten, listen, Christmas, castle. Rule number 15. The rule of letter U. It only has one simple rule. That letter U is silent when it comes after G and before a vowel in a word. For example, guide, guess, or guard. And finally, moving on to our last rule in the list. 16. The rule of letter W. W is silent in a word when it precedes R. For example, wrestle or wrong. Rule number 2 of W. W is silent in some words. For example, whom, whose, whole. I know that this was a very lengthy video. That is the reason why I want you to watch the video twice or thrice or until you understand the rules by heart. Because it is always better to know the rules rather than just mugging them up. And once you are sure of the rule, you will never go wrong with the pronunciation. Moving on to the best part of the video, your assignment. Your assignment is that you have to guess which letter is silent in these words that are being displayed on the screen. You have to write it in the comment box below. And no, I will not be pronouncing these words for you. Otherwise, you will easily guess which letter is silent. So, no cheating. I hope to see you very soon in our next video. Until then, take care, be safe, and happy learning.
Ingvarta, your English practice playground. No judgment, only motivation and constructive feedback. Join today.